Well, welcome back to Super Tuesday Recap. This is your host, Kriss and Dpalm here, and it's that time again, folks, end of the month. Time for another Mailbag episode, and it's going to be a great one. We started off like, oh, we're not going to get a lot of emails here, and then everybody kind of sent their emails in the last couple of minutes. I want to shout out to Tony and Amani, who you two get the award for literally coming in by the skin of your teeth with the emails. Tony sent his in at 4:36 a.m. today, and Imani really got it in the last minute at 9:31 a.m. this morning, like just beating, like we recorded at 10 a.m. So
that's crazy. I just got so Chris forwards me the emails as they after they come in. I'm looking at the timestamp. Amani, that's some dedication.
Right. And you know what I realized? I'm trying to figure out, like, where did this come from? I'm like, oh, that's right. I did mention sending the emails in on the insanity check. So you guys probably, so shout out to you guys listening to the insanity check and going, oh shit, I need to send my email in. And sending those emails in. So, all right, we're going to go through these. I'm going to go them in the order they first came in. So we'll come, Amani, you're last. So, clearly you came in last. So, all right, so here we go.
Marvel no prize.
Huh? Yeah, I know.
No prize. Big no prize right there. That's great.
Yeah. Tell them what you won. No prize. Trojan Suitors emailed us in. He's like, what's up, Kriss and Dpalm? I've been reading the Invincible Iron Man series with Riri Williams since issue 4 and thoroughly enjoying each issue. I've been also been reading Falcon Post Secret Wars. Bless you, and it's been okay. Bless you, seriously, bless you. Bless you. I love seeing Sam and Sean kicking ass, but the gang war storyline made me roll my eyes. So shout out to you for sticking with that because I am not.
No, not shout out to you. Love yourself. Step away from the book. Step away from the book. It's not a good book.
It's okay to say these things now. On the DC side, on the DC side, the Harley and Ivy meet Betty and Veronica has been a very fun read. It's done a good job of showing the female characters be witty, resilient, and mentally tough. When I first picked it up, I was expecting something cheesy due to the Archie connection, but boy, was I wrong. Outside the big books, Batman, X-Men, and Avengers, what are you guys reading? What are some good indie non-big 2 titles I should know about outside of Saga and Bitch Planet? Keep up the good work. I think this is one. You know what we might do? We might just do this every mailbag and just say what we're reading outside the
poll list. We'll call the section called the poll list.
Because I think
that next mailbag, guys. I'm gonna keep a log of everything I read from this point forward, and I'll see what I can do.
Because I think we get this question every mailbag.
But also, to be fair, I give a different answer every time.
No, we do. No,
and I leave off a different book every time. So
yeah, no.
I think it's very fair to ask us to do this.
No, absolutely. So that's why I think that's why I'm like, we should just go ahead and make it a segment. So you want to go ahead and take this one first?
Yeah. Things I'm reading right now. If you're not reading Jason Aaron's story,
outside the big books. So outside
of the big book, I'm sorry, I don't know how people are judging this book now. I know. Okay, fine. Outside of the bigger books,
I say outside of let's say outside of the big 2 publishers.
DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
Obviously, Transformers: Lost Light is the continuation of More Than Meets the Eye. If you do your math, I think we're coming up on what would be More Than Meets the Eye issue 75, and the solicits are out. And I don't know if James Roberts listens when he's not on these podcasts, but I'll be talking to you again, sir. Holy shit. Also, Invincible just wrapped up by Robert Kirkman. And if you love superhero comics, but you don't necessarily love, or maybe if you do love the big 2 comics, you just want to read some more just pure superhero stuff, issue 1, start there. And Robert Kirkman, it's the world's greatest superhero comic for a reason. And he just wrote the finale, and I can't say enough about it. I'm also loving The Walking Dead still. Are you still reading Walking Dead?
No, I have not. I have not been reading The Walking Dead for years.
Okay, so the last issue ends on a very real note that I may spoil, not this mailbag, but next mailbag. But yeah, there's a lot of good books out there. Jason Aaron also writes Southern Bastards, Uber. I finally am reading. I gave to the Kickstarter, so I have the entire box set. So I finally started reading Uber. And I think that's really mostly what I'm reading right now.
Yeah. I think most of the stuff you talked about, I've mentioned before. I don't know if I've mentioned here. I know I've said it on the Nerd Off, but I'm reading the two of the books from the line forwards, the Catalyst Prime line, Noble and Superb. So I'm reading both of those, and I actually like them. I think they're pretty good. So I've been enjoying those, and that's something that's outside the big two. That if you're evolving black superheroes, and black creators. So if you want to read something like that, I definitely highly recommend checking those out. I want to say Noble is, I think issue 9 came out recently, and can't remember what issue Superb is on. I know I did read the full first volume. Their volumes are kind of weird. I think the first volume was only like 4 issues or something like that. But I think that those are pretty good. Obviously, I'm waiting for Uber Invasion to come back because I'm just jonesing for that shit. So, yeah, I think that's it for now. I know I've gone back and read some. I'm gonna start reading some stuff, some older stuff. But that's about it for me right now. This month, but I'll probably have more stuff coming next month. So, let's see. Next question. Next email. Let's see.
I'm also reading Boom Studios' Power Rangers.
Oh, how's that?
It's actually really good. Like, it's better than City Right-Being. I've enjoyed. I think it's an issue. We're an issue like I think 16 or 17 now. It's been a really good run. Yeah. It's written by Kyle Higgins. Used to write Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
And Grayson, and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh yeah, I'll maybe check that out. Yeah. All right. So next one. Anthony writes in. He's like, "Hey, Kriss and Dpalm, if you develop mutant powers tomorrow, which ones would you want, and what would you do with them?" Oh, come on. Why would you ask the two villain agenda motherfuckers what they would do?
I have two answers.
Go ahead.
So, are we talking like? That's such an open-ended question because we're talking power without limits. If you choose psionics, telekinesis, and telepathy, you're God.
Yes.
Like, telekinesis makes you God. I'm sorry. Like, if you can alter matter on a molecular level with the power of your mind, you are a God. But so I've always, and this question, I've always said telekinesis is not a fair answer. I always remove that one. And my answer is super speed. I'm a Flash nerd. I'm sorry. It's super speed. You can do a lot of things with super speed. Infinite mass punches. I'm sorry. Just super speed is the answer for me.
So I have two answers too. Because this is something as a kid, this is something you always think about, right? It's like, what kind of superpowers would I want? And so for me, there are always two. I'll give one for Marvel and one for DC, even though DC doesn't have mutants. I'm just going to take this as powers, period, right? So I'll do the DC one first because you kind of mentioned it. I always wanted it to be the Flash. I always wanted super speed. Because you got to remember, I mean, during the time of when I was growing up, the only DC character I cared about and read about was the Flash, and that was Wally West's Flash. So this is around the time of them really getting into what the Speed Force was and what he could do with the Speed Force. And, you talk about telekinesis being a god.
Right.
Speed made Wally West a fucking god. Like, and it was incredible. And it was incredible for me also for a personal reason was, as a kid growing up, I had asthma. So, but I was also a very active kid. I always wanted to do sports. I always liked to run. Like, running was my favorite thing to do. But the problem is I couldn't run long distances because I would get winded and I would have asthma attacks, and I would force myself to still go run and still go do all these things. And I would do dumb things like not carry my inhaler on me, which I could have died, but I wouldn't do it because I didn't want to do that. So reading about a character who had the super speed and could do all this stuff, like I naturally grew to that character. So yes, super speed was always the thing I wanted because fuck, like you said, you can do anything with super speed. Like, like powers are already cheating, but super speed in the hands of like, a really determined person, holy shit, what can you not do?
Someone's been reading flashbacks his entire life.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying someone who's been reading flashbacks his entire life. Like, those little things that Barry would say. Like, we know those things now.
Mm-hmm.
And we can use them.
Yeah. So
what's the Marvel one?
So the Marvel one was, and it should be no surprise, I always wanted magnetism. Because Magneto was... I'm sorry, I did. Like, because it was just, like, again, just going, but with... Because, again, so I think a lot of people don't realize that in the era that we grew up reading comic books, they really made superheroes and even supervillains like almost overpowered. And in that era, that era of me growing up reading comics, Magneto was damn near a god. All right. Like, this is a motherfucker that literally tried to, threaten to, hold the world hostage by knocking it off of his axis. All right. This is a guy that
He
literally
did it in the Ultimate Universe.
Yes. All right. And like he could fly. He could. You couldn't. He had his magnetic powers is so awesome. And then you read something like Age of Apocalypse, where he started doing things that you're like, wait, you can do that? Hey, that doesn't make. Fuck it. Okay, I'm gonna go and allow it. Like, ripping Apocalypse apart with his powers. Like, shit that sometimes didn't make sense, but you didn't give a shit because it looked fucking cool and awesome. And yeah, I wanted magnetism. I just did. And throwing a little. Yeah, I had a little villain agenda in me when I was little. Yeah. So sue me. I don't care. So, yeah, those are my two: magnetism and super speed. I would alternate between the two.
I think the cheating answer is like Superman's power set's a cheat. Like, there's too many powers, and the power ring's a cheat, right? Like, if I said Green Lantern power ring, that's a cheat too.
Yeah. Like, so I don't consider the Green Lantern power because it's a tool. So I don't really consider it like a power. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm talking about like you have a power like that can't be taken away from you. And I'll be honest, man, like while Superman had all those powers, I felt like he was never the top of those power sets, right? So yeah, he has super speed, but it ain't fucking with the Flash. Yeah, he's strong and powerful, but he's not the most powerful. So it was like, yeah, okay, I mean, that's nice, but that's like you said, it's a cheating answer to have. I'm like, no, I want somebody who has the power.
You want to be the best at something.
Right. I might not have all the powers, but the one I do have, you can't fuck with me off that. So yeah, and so that was Magneto and the Flash.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I love when I got this question, I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this. This is gonna be fun. I look forward to this one. I do. So let's see. Next question. Here comes the first of several that are berating me. David and Austin says, "I'm let you finish talking about Black Panther, but a year later, y'all still haven't watched any of Legion with season 2 right around the corner of all the comic books."
I have Hulu now. I have Hulu. I just got Hulu like a week and a half ago.
And look, and just so everybody, I'll finish this later. Let me finish the email first. I'm gonna come back to this. Sorry. After all the comic book shows, it's the most uniquely artistic, and it's only 8 episodes. This show is more FX than Bryan Singer, and y'all watch Inhumans, man, Inhumans. Fair. Back to Black Panther. What story arc do you guys think would best work for a sequel? Factoring in the Avengers movies, do you think there will be minor Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tie-ins when it comes back from break? First time, long time here, and I appreciate what you guys do. So going back to Legion, listen, I understand Legion is good. It's not coming back until April, so I feel like I had time before I needed to watch the first season. So give me some break. And I will say that off the strength of Legion and people who I trust saying that they enjoyed Legion and it was good, that is the only reason why you guys even got me to watch and review and give The Gifted a chance. So, because that's why. People said the Legion was actually good, and I was like, all right, cool. I'll give The Gifted a chance, and I'll watch it, and you got us both hooked. There's a reason why Dpalm isn't on the first The Gifted review, because he was still hesitant
to watch it.
Yeah, he was still hesitant, and then everybody was like, no, it really is good. He watched it, and next thing you know, he's on all the reviews as well. So, yeah. So, now, we will be watching Legion. Probably won't review it, but that'll probably be another one of my favorite shows to kind of my shows be able to watch and not have to rush out to do a review of it. So, and I'll be honest, that also is quietly why I didn't rush to watch it either. I kind of like I have this problem. I think we all do, where we end up watching something is good and then we want to talk about it, and so next thing you know, it's about being on a show and doing a show and reviewing it. Next thing you know, you've looped yourself into a weekly podcast on a show. So part of me is kind of like, if I don't watch it, I can't do a podcast on it.
It can't be work.
Yeah, right. So
no, I'm serious. There's certain shows that I know you and I both watch that I don't even tweet about. Like, I just like to enjoy this show.
Yo, The Expanse is that show. I try to write reviews for it, and then what ends up happening is like I get so caught up in like I don't even want to do this. I want to just watch the show. And so yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we'll do something different where. Because you know what I really like? I like the format we've been doing with our that we did with The Gifted, what we did with Star Trek. We'll be finishing up Star Trek Discovery this week.
Defenders too.
Yeah, and the Defenders, where like I don't feel the necessary to do a week to week. And honestly, we might change some of our Arrowverse shows to doing that next year. Because I think sometimes that makes it easier when you can get 3 or 4 episodes into a bunch and then talking on it that way. One, you can kind of you have more to talk about, and 2, it's actually just easier for us to talk about stuff. So,
and we'll never do it for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because those would be 7-hour podcasts.
Oh, yeah. No. There's certain shows that do not. Like Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'll be honest, Legend of Tomorrow's not happening that way either. So, but Flash and Arrow, you guys are on notice.
Damn.
Just saying. I didn't say we were doing it. I just said they're on notice. You had till the rest of the season to figure that out. But no, I think it's easier. I think it helps, and that's the way to do it. So maybe we might do something like when the season 2 of Legion is ending, we might just do a show where we just talk about the first 2 seasons and do it that way. Like that's one show versus doing. I think the first season was 8, and the second one I think is going to be 10. So that's 18 episodes versus doing just 1 or 2. So that might be something we do, but that's something that I have to think about. I have to think about ways of how I'm gonna make sure I don't overextend myself and overextend the people that do shows for us, and we don't completely flood the feed because we have so many shows that come out. So, but yeah, no, we're gonna watch it. And then as far as Black Panther arcs that we think work best for the sequel, I think because
they didn't take any specific arc into the original. So I think that what they can do is continue to mine the deep and rich history of Black Panther and continue to grow it that way.
Yeah, and
I don't think it's a specific story.
And I think that's what works best for Black Panther. Like I think the conversation around Black Panther, the one thing they haven't talked about enough, I think, is that what Ryan Coogler and them did was they took they took the history, and even more so than, because this is what the MCU always does, takes the history, changes it around a little bit, and put some elements there. I really kind of feel like they did what, and we're gonna have a comic book club on Coach's first 3 volumes later on in the day. I think they're doing what Coach is trying to do with his run, which is, but they did it more cleanly. They fixed all the problems. They fixed some of the. Yeah, they came out, opened the gate with this movie to define Wakanda and T'Challa and the people of Wakanda the way we want, the way that they need to be defined. When you go from Stan Lee to Coach, what you get is almost 50 years of them trying to work to this part, work to this image that what is in the MCU, where you have you have the foundation of Wakanda being the women who have equal voices. You have the different tribes there. You show the difference between not, I don't want to say the beef, but the disagreement between the Jabrari tribe and the rest of the other tribes and the king. They showing all this stuff by eliminating some of the problematic stuff here. So I don't know if there's a specific arc that you can do, because I think some of the bigger ones involve some other characters that aren't in the MCU yet, and I don't think the way to introduce them is to introduce them through Black Panther, namely Doom and Namor. But I do think what you can do going forward is, particularly the way this movie ends with, and if for some reason you're one of the 2 people in America who has not seen Black Panther yet, spoilers ahead. But the way the movie ends, it ends with T'Challa, bringing Shuri and being, hey, listen, we're going to form this outreach to the rest of the world, and we're going to basically, show the world who we are, which is basically what this movie really was about. And I think that where you go from that is you then show the problems that come with that. Because, I think this movie does a good job of saying, hey, Wakanda should do more, blah, blah, blah. That's great. But there is the flip side of that is when you do that, you then do have people that, one, disagree with that, who disagree with you changing tradition, which is something that always is a theme in Black Panther comics. And then 2, you have the interference of the outside world. with other people. So I think that's where they can go, that storyline they can go with next, is finding people inside of Wakanda that are not happy with this change and moving away from tradition and moving away and opening themselves up to the world, and then finding some people from the outside that are working with them. I mean, that's partly what they did with Coach's run, but then the same thing is what happened with Priest's run. That was one of the big things about Priest's run.
It's one of the thematic returns of Wakanda and Black Panther.
Right. And again, we'll get more into this, I think, when we do the comic book club. So if you're a premium member, you're definitely going to listen to that. But I think it's one of the things that, you know, like you said, is the defining thing about a Black Panther comic. It's not like I was seeing a lot of people talk. It was like, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of, it's not superhero stuff. It's like, yeah, Black Panther comics have never really been superhero stuff. They've really been political stuff. Like most of the time, they're dealing with the politics of it, and you know, there are different ways of them showing that, but it's always been political. Like Black Panther comics have always been about how much and showing T'Challa balancing the right of being king, being Black Panther, and then also wanting to be a hero. You know, it's a recurring thing, and so I think that's going to be something that'll be the storyline or the theme, if you will, of the next film of showing that balance, you know, and showing that it's hard. It's hard, you know, this is a man who's, you know, a king. So how do you balance that with, you know, being an Avenger? Like I think that's what we're going to see. So I'll be interested to see how they go from there. So, all right. So next email. There we go. This is Brian says, "What's up, Kriss and Dpalm?" Besides, so number one, he has 4 things here. Number one, besides the fact that it inspired the god awful DCEU Flash costume, what are your feelings on the series of Injustice comics that came out from the first game? I've only have you read them?
Kriss, this is a weekly read for me.
Yeah,
I love these fucking books.
Yeah, I haven't read all of them, but I think I've read. They did it in seasons, right?
Yeah, they did. So Injustice, there's a whole Injustice comic, and then there's the Road to Injustice 2, where they kind of retell the events of Injustice 1, the game. And Injustice 2 has been fucking amazing so far.
Yeah.
Tom Taylor's writing it, I believe. Still, he's the reason. This is the reason I was so excited when he got X-Men Red. I was like, you guys don't know what you're in for. He's so good at this.
Yeah.
He's a very good writer. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, they did. It was Injustice like seasons. It was like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5.
I read year 1.
And then Justice 2 is on issue, I want to say mid-20s maybe. Mm-hmm. But they're both really good. I would, if you've got a DC Unlimited service.
Hey, wasn't me this time.
Or some other way to access these books, find them, because the collections. They're great. It's if you like your alternate universe storytelling and you like it with a strong backing and a strong story behind it and strong character motivations and great writing, this is what you're looking for. It's beautiful art, well written. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah,
also read X-Men Red, because Tom Taylor's a lot of fun and he's a really good writer.
Yeah, I'm about to. I have those bought. I haven't read it.
And he's also writing All New Wolverine, the Laura Kinney book.
Yes, I've heard it. Yes, and that was good.
Yes, he's a very good. Yeah, it's a very good writer.
I think because I always talked about how, you know, the DCEU was taking things from the Injustice, that people thought that I did not like Injustice. I was like, no, I read the first season, the first year, and it's great. I think what people didn't understand was like and it'll kind of go into the second question we have here. Alternate universes work when you've already established the regular universe. And so
exactly. They work because it's different,
right? And so when you're launching a movie universe, unless you're saying that this is the alternate versions of the characters you know, come out and say that. Unless you do that, then taking from that alternate universe kind of feels just wrong, and it becomes a mess.
Cheap and tawdry. Yeah. It's like the Superman of Injustice is so striking and so impressive because it's such a departure, but it's not a departure because it's, look, we made him despotic for no reason. You made the change tied to the Superman we know.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
No spoilers ahead, Superman goes crazy, not crazy. Well, he goes crazy. The Joker tricks him into detonating a nuke over Metropolis and killing Lois Lane, who was pregnant with his child. Superman then snaps and kills the Joker, and that sets in motion the events of everything, which actually is a really good story.
Yeah, no, I mean, but again, like you said, it only works because you've already established of what you already know.
Tied to something we know.
Right.
It's rooted in something we know, and then it goes off.
If I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, Superman basically looks at Batman and is like, you should have done this a long time ago. Like, this, what the fuck, yo? It's like, and it kind of plays off that. You can't, though, do origin stories based off of the Injustice story. Like,
Correct.
It just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. We were seeing it. Like, people are like, oh, you don't know if it works or not. No. I can see the box offices. It doesn't work.
Oh, no. It does not work. Number 2. What are your favorite books that deal with alternate versions of the characters we know? I'll go with my first one. I kind of mentioned it before. I love Age of Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. I love that. I remember when again there are. I love how everything we do ties into everything we're also doing in other shows. So when we talk, we're finally gonna do our Sinister. I'm not rescheduling this time. We are gonna do that fucking show on Monday. Sinister and Apocalypse. One of the things that I was going through and refreshing my memory for reading was Executioner's Song, and I remember that being one of the first crossovers I ever bought, like all the issues too. The second one where I bought just about everyone, Age of Apocalypse. I have just about every Age of Apocalypse, and I'm not talking like digital form. This is before digital. In a box. I'm looking at it across the room from me right now. There's a box that probably has all of my Age of Apocalypse books in it, and yeah, I love that because you get to see these characters that you knew and you thought you knew, and then they're being completely different. You saw different teams. You saw the Summers brothers working with Sinister, and it's like that stuff makes sense though because you're like, oh well, hey, Sinister was always going after the Summers brothers, and if Xavier wasn't around, who knows? Maybe he got them. It's just all these things.
I think one of the great things about Age of Apocalypse, it came out of fucking nowhere. Yeah. Before things had message boards. All of a sudden, if you're reading the main X books,
you're gone.
Legion goes back in time. You assume the team's going to stop him, and he ends up killing Charles Xavier in the past. And the next week, every book is canceled. Mm-hmm. And every book is relaunched under a new title and a new number one.
This is going to tie into something.
This is the time when there were like 12 X books.
Yeah, this is going to tie into something that we told for our quick hits thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, that could not happen this year. I mean, in this time, in this day and age, because people would have been freaked out. People would have written, "Oh, this is a cheat." Like they would have done all kind of crazy things. But at that time, because you don't know anything, and you had to look in order to get the information you get now on Twitter, which is easily available, you had to dig through like message boards. You had to be heavy into that, and that wasn't accessible to everybody around. So if you were just like going to the comic book store or you had your comics mailed to you, you went from reading this one story the next week, like you said, all your books were canceled, and you were getting these new books. You were getting a Weapon X book. You were getting the Astonishing X-Men. You were getting, all these different things. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And you had no idea. And it ran for what 6 months?
6 months.
It ran for 6 months.
Everyone got 6 issues. Cable turned into X-Man.
Mm-hmm.
X-Force turned into Gambit in the Externals.
Yep.
It was nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy. And again, we'll talk about this later on. I think Marvel still is promoting themselves under the idea that kind of thing still works, and not taking into account that people have too much information and it's really hard. Like I think they need publicity help, but we'll talk about that later. But that was one of my favorite ones. I really love that. How about you?
I'm an Exiles mark. Exiles was so much fun to me. Mm-hmm. And for those who never read it, it was about a team of 6 alternate versions of characters, and then some, like Nocturne was the daughter of an alternate Nightcrawler and Scarlet Witch. Like there was these characters and they got thrown together and they had to go through fixing different realities, but each reality was significantly different in some way. Like the Phalanx had taken over the world. And they solved that one because in the end they realized that, wait, all the heroes are here, but Thor's not. There are no gods. And they end up finding a spell and call down the Asgardian gods back to Earth, and that's how they win the day. There's one where, and one of the main characters is Mimic, and the other main character is Blink from Age of Apocalypse, and it is that Blink. It's not an alternate version. She gets taken away the moment the nukes go off in X-Men Omega, or
Yeah.
I think it was an Omega. Was that it? Omega?
I think it was Omega. Yeah.
And that's where her story ends, and she ends up running into her Sabretooth in their stories, and it's this large. It's a really nice, beautiful story, and Judd Winnick wrote it, and it's Judd Winnick and Mike McCune's just beautiful art and like emotionally resonant writing. And I think their run goes for, I want to say, 80 or so issues. Then other writers come in and it kind of falls off a fucking cliff. But there's Exiles are back now, and I'm excited for the new book. As I believe our Valkyrie from
Yes.
Ragnarok is one of the main characters.
Yes. That should be fun. So this is not I guess it was a series, and I guess it wasn't all alternate universe. I love what they did with some of the DC characters in or showing their stuff and not just DC, but I guess all the characters at Planetary. The way that they kind of showed you different versions of the, like, I loved how they did that.
I have a similar answer, but it's a different book.
Which one?
The Boys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I wasn't gonna. I'm glad one of us brought that up, but yes. I was going with the clean version. The clean version.
What was I gonna say?
Yeah.
He said Planetary. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was a safer, better.
Right. The Planetary is the safe, clean version of the Boys, and then there's the Boys that says, "Fuck it." Yeah. No. Absolutely. That's hilarious. This is why we work together. This is why we're like in each other's brain.
Like he said Planetary, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, you had me keyed up because I was so sure you were gonna say The Boys.
Oh no. I tried to keep that in the back of my mind and lock in a closet somewhere. We're gonna have to do a comic book club on that one, aren't we?
It's got to be premium, like that one.
Yeah. Oh no, it's definitely premium. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that's definitely premium. That's premium with no previews and no nothing.
No previews. Just hey, by the way, we talked about The Boys.
Yeah.
There's no preview.
Yeah. No. You got to pay for that shit. Because once you pay, you're also an accomplice. You're part of the problem. Number three, Dpalm kind of hinted at in the Black Panther podcast where he thinks he sees something fantastic coming after Infinity War. How would you two work the Fantastic Four into MCU? I think you covered that at one point in an earlier.
I kind of fantasy booked it. I think it's even more obvious now as you go back and read and watch some of the movies. Ant-Man deals with the microverse and a universe of possibility. Doctor Strange literally takes you on the tour of the multiverse. Mm-hmm. So the idea that these explorers would be lost in the winds of time or reality and could just be spat out at any point really works. I honestly think that I think that because of the timing of the sale, unless they get like a type of Sony deal on Fantastic Four like they did with Spider-Man, I think you won't see them in the beginning of this phase, but I think the end of Phase 4 is Galactus, and I think you can't do Galactus without doing the Fantastic Four.
Oh no, you absolutely cannot.
If Galactus enters our reality, he won't be alone.
Oh yeah, no.
He'll have the Surfer, and he'll be being trailed by the Fantastic Four, and it's going to be fucking amazing.
Yes, awesome. I'm all with that. Number 4, and this is you guys got to.
By the way, sorry, I want to say something I noticed doing my re-study of the Marvel MCU. And we'll talk about this in the preview we do. I think it's really impressive how they've set up their new Trinity. Spider-Man is Thor, who's trying to prove himself. Captain Marvel will be the time-displaced military soldier, and a technologically superior superhero who came in and ended his movie by "I am Iron Man" or "Who are you?" will be the leader. Is really smart. They did it on the fly. They recast the entire MCU on the fly, and no one noticed. And I was just like, wait a second.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Spider-Man's your Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it fell into place for me. And a time-traveling captain?
Yep.
Look, man, they're good. They're really good.
Because what is it that Jeffrey says to Thor in the first movie? He's like, "You're just a boy trying to prove yourself to be a man." Yeah. Yep. It's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. No, you're absolutely right. Look, don't say these motherfuckers ain't geniuses. I'm sorry.
Yo, doubt Marvel at your own risk.
I'm just saying, like, there's,
and they're still going to give us Ant-Man and the Wasp this year, which I'm low-key, like, super fucking excited about.
Because, look, man, that trailer looked fucking awesome. I'm like,
yo, Infinity War is going to be dope, fine. Get me to Ant-Man.
right.
And the Wasp.
Right. Oh, man, it's going to be great. And then number 4 in here, Chris, when are you going to make time to watch Young Justice? Get your life, bro. Listen, here, I'm tired of you guys assuming.
No. Actually, I stand with the listeners.
No, and I'm going to say this to you then. I'm tired of y'all assuming that I don't watch shit. I haven't watched at least a full season of Young Justice, all right? So I have not gotten to season 2 yet. I know that, but I have at least watched some of Young Justice, all right? I'm tired of this fucking slander.
We need you to finish.
That's a different question now, all right? That's not what was asked. I was not asked to finish. I was asked to watch, and I have watched the first season of Young Justice, all right? I need to finish. You know what? No, honestly,
having sex relations with that woman that is respectful. I'm in front of the camera right now. No, that's not currently occurring. That's ridiculous. What kind of question are you? I'm surrounded by microphones and cameras. You see a woman near me? No, you don't. That's a ridiculous question. Sorry, I meant in general. What do you mean in general? You asked, where am I currently? The answer is no.
What? Goddamn. As far as when I'm going to watch it, I'll probably do season 2 once I know for sure. Have they given the season 3 date yet?
Yeah, season 3 is coming on that DC streaming.
I know, but have they given us a date for when DC streaming is happening?
Come on, nigga.
Okay. So that's my thing. Because here's the thing, yo. Like, I'm not trying to be like y'all. I'm not trying to be like y'all. Because here's the thing: as long as I haven't watched season 2, I don't feel like
season 3. You
I'm just saying, like, I see you all feeling like crackheads. All right. I'm not trying to have that same fucking problem. So as long as season 2 is still there and I still have something to watch, I'm still like, oh, okay, there's still something there. So now, I can have that crack whenever I want to have that crack, I'm in control here. I'm not trying to be like y'all, all right? So give me some fucking credit.
Let's move on. I'm infuriated by that answer. That's the most ridiculous answer you ever given.
Well, now, wait a minute. It is not.
Okay, fine, not the most. But
okay, thank you, all right? Give me some respect here. Tony. Sorry. Hi, guys. Thanks for the podcast and the hard work. Dan Slott is replacing Bendis on the Iron Man comic. Can you give a review of Dan Slott comics? I'm aware of his run on with She-Hulk. Are there any comics of Slott that we should read? I mean, I think last week you talked about the Silver Surfer run. He did.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
No, see now I wasn't going to say that one honestly. I had a lot of stuff on the list. I was like, I'm just not going to say Surfer. No, I wasn't talk about it. The Dan Slott Silver Surfer book is Silver Surfer, but it's the most romantic comic I've ever read. It's beautiful. It's high, like it's Surfer. It's the Surfer, but he pulls off stuff that you wouldn't expect. It's really, really good. Other things of Dan Slott, I'll say the best for last. Let's see. I don't know. Did he write X? Maybe I'm making that up. No, that was Peter David. His She-Hulk obviously is good. Very funny stuff. He did a Spider-Man Human Torch miniseries. It's called I'm With Stupid. It's them as roommates, and it's amazing. And obviously, look, your mileage may vary. I can't speak to what people like. But he's written amazing Spider-Man for my money better than anyone else has.
Yeah.
That's my Spider-Man. It's his. Honestly, obviously Stan Spidey's there. But more than anything, it's going to end up for me being Dan Slott and Brian Michael Bendis on Ultimate, who really redefined Spider-Man for me.
Didn't Slott do the Gauntlet run? Was that some of his? Yeah. Oh, that stuff was fantastic. That stuff was like
he's written since then. Like that's the thing is I think he's written more Spider-Man than anyone.
Yeah, I think so.
It's amazing.
I think the people's problem. Yeah, I think the people's problem with Bendis comes with, like they don't like one, huh?
They don't like growth. They don't like. Yeah. He made the character grow. He grew the character.
Yeah, and so. I think people hold on to one certain things here and things like that, and they don't actually read the stuff because it's one of the finding problems with comic book readers these days. I don't think they're actually reading. even, I mean, as much as they talk about casuals and things like this, like I think some of the comic reads are not reading what's in front of them. They're reading what they want to have, and they're reading all the commentary on what they're reading, but they're not actually reading what's in front of them. And
let me say something here. Just I apologize because you say something that's 100% true. Dan Slott's run was maligned by fake nerds who didn't read the comics because Dan Slott started writing Spider-Man in 2010. If you start reading his run, it's when he became the sole writer of Amazing Spider-Man. If you start the beginning of this run, the seeds are planted for everything. This has all been the plan.
mm-hmm.
People were infuriated by Amazing Spider-Man 700 because he killed Peter Parker and gave Otto Octavius Peter's body.
Oh, that's right. He wrote Superior Spider-Man too, right?
Look, time out.
Come on. Oh.
People were pissed as shit at that, right? It went on to win the Diamond Gem Award for Top Dollar Comic of the Year because the comic went through 5 printings. When Superior Spider-Man ended, it relaunched Amazing Spider-Man in 2014. It is the best-selling comic book of the 21st century. Fake nerds will tell you that the run isn't good. Fans lie, people lie, numbers don't.
Yo, listen.
This is the best Spider-Man's. Like when I love the fact that Kriss just figured out that yes, everything since 2010 that has happened to Spider-Man was under this man's pen.
I always forget that he wrote Superior Spider-Man. And like, well, 'cause it goes back to the whole thing. Like, and this is why I can't take social media arguments over comic books have pissed me off because I feel like a lot of people are just arguing to argue, not reading. Because I remember when the whole thing with Superior Spider-Man happened with was it issue 600 or was it issue 700?
It was 700.
But issue 700.
He's ending with 800.
Yeah, he's ending
because
with
this
800.
man's a G.
Yeah. So I remember when 700 happened and people were like, "Oh my God, he killed Peter Parker. This is ridiculous." And now you have Otto Octavius being Spider-Man. This is a sir. And then you know what happened was it was kind of like what happened with Hydra Cap, where the loudest voices happened at the beginning, but by the end, most of those voices were quiet because either one, they weren't reading to begin with, or two, they realized what the actual was fucking happening here, and showing that it wasn't about that. It was actually showing you why the hero matters.
And also 5 printings, bitch. It doesn't don't read. No one read this. Best-selling book of the year. Came back Amazing #1. Guess what that was? Best-selling book of the year. Like, I'm sorry. I know we don't justify numbers as far as quality, but at a certain point, the numbers matter.
Yes.
When it's the best-selling comic of the year, when he's written that twice in this run, yeah, that matters.
Yeah. No, Dan Slott on Amazing. And so which
I'm gonna miss the shit out of Dan Slott on Amazing.
Yeah. So Dan Slott on Iron Man is gonna be I'm looking for it. Yeah. That's
you think he can write Tony?
Why not?
It's a great point. It's just
here's
Tony
the thing.
is a lot colder than Peter.
Well, here's the thing. Well, he is, but is he now?
You're right.
Because here's the thing. I think, and this is what's going to be interesting, and this is going to tie into the talk we have, one of the quick hits, talking about the Marvel's fresh start stuff. You know, we've seen, and I think a lot of people will forget this with Marvel Comics. Marvel sometimes calls their shot. So we've actually technically seen a little bit of the future with what happens with Tony. And so putting Dan Slott in charge of getting us to that Tony, the Tony that is now Sorcerer Supreme, yeah, I'm interested in seeing how that works. Because like you said, Tony, it's going to be him redefining who Tony is and doing the story. And if he does the same thing he did with Peter and Spider-Man,
Oof.
I'm all in for that.
They gave him 7 years on Tony?
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, okay. I take it all back. I'm in. Jesus.
Yeah.
You just pitched it in a way that made me just, yes. Okay.
Because you know, this is what always, I think, what makes the runs great with these characters is understanding the core of their character. And then taking that core and then saying, what if we changed a little bit? You know, and yeah, I'm and not change it like out of the blue, but have them, like you said, grow. Because like you said, what he did with Peter wasn't to change Peter, he grew Peter. And I think that's the difference. when you grow something, if you change something, you can be forced. It can come out of nowhere. But when you grow something, you see the pieces happen as they go along. And if he's tasked with growing Tony Stark into the Tony we saw in that future with Riri, sign me up. I am there. I want to see that shit. 100%. So there we go. And then the last one, Amani, your no prize award for coming in last. Yo, they fucking did it. I never doubted Coogler and Marvel, but to see the level of excellence and blackness on the screen in the theater hit me in the chest. And I'm so glad Kriss had already patented and explained a villain agenda before this, because the takes are flying. Yeah, I think. Listen, the takes are flying, and yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. And if anything else, shout out to Black Panther for burying DCEU. Bro, they really passed Justice League in a weekend. The goddamn Justice League, so good. They finally made Joss Whedon stop scamming and leave Batgirl after he never even had a story after almost a year. If I'm DC, I just spam the press release of Bendis taking over Superman and anything else Com King writes every week. Hit that Vince Carter, it's over. And let's talk about the important thing. Your gold medal champions in curling. You goddamn right the U.S. beat the Russians dripping in roids. I watched Rocky IV, drinking and messing around, beats up, juicing every time. The bar's been raised now. I need you and Dpalm to be ready for 2022. Yeah,
okay, I'm going to handle this in order. Yes, the takes are flying. Kriss is right. We're not doing that today. DC, fire everybody. I don't know if you guys are in the Facebook group. You should. If you're not, if you like these podcasts, join the Facebook group. We have a really good time. But I shared a video that's a cut up. Did you see this? Of all the fight scenes from the MCU set to this amazing song.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh yo, DC, delete your accounts, all of them. It's over. Oh, and by the way, the honest trailers for Justice League is out, and that's the meanest shit I've ever watched.
I'm not watching that.
No, it's so honest. Yo, Kriss, no. After the recording, I want to be online while you watch it. After we sign off, I want to sit here and talk to you after you watch it.
Oh God,
I'm super excited for this actually.
Oh, man.
And curling, I would say keep your eyes on the UD pod feed.
USA.
The reddest, the whitest, the bluest.
I can't. I'm seriously. I woke up this morning to U.S. taking gold in curling.
Goddamn right we did.
And I was just like, God damn it. God damn it.
I have a curling connect. Honestly, I'm gonna make something happen on that feed. It might actually be video content.
The MTR curling agenda is in full swing, guys.
Fully underway.
It is happening. You might not have heard when I said on the Insanity Check yet. Then
what'd you do?
I basically said if we get I think it was 300 subscribers, me and you were taking curling lessons.
All right, yeah,
premium subscribers. So
sure.
It was 300 or 350. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but we're doing it. And I think it was 400. And we videotape it. So
yes.
So 100%. I'm just saying, curling 2022. We're coming. Did you see the guy? I'm sorry, I don't want to malign anybody, but I was like, wait, why am I working out if he's got an Olympic gold medal?
That's an Olympic gold medalist.
Oh my goodness! You mean I don't have to stop eating nachos? Oh, fuck.
You're not eating enough nachos. That's your problem. Step your nacho game up, sir. You want to be a medalist? You want to be dedicated to the sport? Extra cheese.
Get that vegan shit out of here.
I'm on a starch-heavy diet. Lots of potatoes.
God damn it. Oh, this is why nobody allows us to go anywhere.
Ever.
Oh, boy. All right, cool. So let's get into some of the quick hits before we wrap this up.
Get out of here.
First one I want to do here, I just have to say this. I mean, it's not really anything, just more of a celebration. Black Panther breaks more records, 108 million second weekend. It's the second best ever as Marvel movie heads to $400 million domestic.
Domestic.
And it's selling overseas too, so there's that. So
Justice League. Como se dice dunked on?
$108 million second weekend, yo. I just want to point out that the first early tracking numbers that came out for Black Panther had it at $85 million. It's doing $108 million its second weekend.
I want everyone to remember that I was on these airways telling you this is going to break $1 billion a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Chris said he wasn't sure.
Look, I wasn't sure.
You were right to be cautious.
But I knew it'd be at least over 820. So yeah, it's gonna hit $1 billion, guys. That's just what's gonna be.
It's gonna smash $1 billion. Yo, it beat Avengers numbers.
Yeah.
And 10 days better than Avengers. Like we're watching something crazy.
And I know folks are gonna be like, oh well, yeah, maybe Infinity Wars. Here's the thing, Marvel's not stupid. There's a reason why Wakanda is all in the Infinity War trailers, yo.
It's called Act 1.
It's like
you're getting Wakanda in about 8 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, you guys like that Black Panther? Hey, we got some more of that shit. If you guys want to come back in May, we got a lot more of that Wakanda shit. You like T'Challa? Oh, you like Shuri? She's in Wakanda too. Oh, you want to see that shit? Come on.
I just hope for something that's not going to happen.
What?
You know, Wrinkle in Time is a little girl who can dimensionally skip.
You want that in the MCU?
Look, if you just dropped into Wakanda for a minute, I was like, nope, not here. Pop! I'm like, oh shit!
It is all Disney, so I'm just saying.
Yo, it's all Disney. I'm just saying.
Yo, if they did that, that would have been fucking
that'd be the realest shit in the world.
That would be amazing. So, I mean, that was a quick hit, but I just had to throw it out there just to let everybody know. Yeah, we're at 108 million. Which, by the way, its second weekend still topped Justice League's first weekend.
And we're not making the comparisons to be mean. We're making them because fuck DC.
Which leads me to the second one. Joss Whedon is leaving Batgirl because he said he doesn't have a story. And so I had two thoughts on this one. One is, there's the obvious one where how do you give a director, a movie, and then he said he doesn't have a story to tell after a year. The second one is, I looked at it another way too. It could be that he doesn't have a story in the DCEU. Because you start thinking about it, the universe that they have created, how do you put Batgirl in there?
Or there's third conspiracy theory that Joss Whedon probably should get caught up in the Me Too stuff, and before anyone notices, we're going to slide him out the back door.
Well, hey, that is not too far off the thing because, hey, he had the whole thing with his wife came out.
Go back and read the stuff that she wrote about him. That's horrific shit.
Yeah. So that is not. But here's the thing. I'm not sure DC is smart enough to get rid of somebody like that.
Well, you know what this really tells you is that once again, it's proving that it's not like Whedon pitched for this job.
No.
Because if you pitch, you have to have at least a story or an outlook or an approach, something. What that's telling me is that DC's going out and saying, I want the name of the director, put his name attached to this, we'll work out the rest later.
Which has been a recurring theme for them that has failed.
Epically so. Embarrassingly so.
Yeah.
And they refuse to learn.
I believe there was some other story about the Flash director still don't have a script, or they're still not signed on yet. And the first director they had, Rick Famuyiga, the one who did Dope, who I was actually excited to see his attempt at this until everything went to shit with the DCEU. He kind of, sent out some little shade with him retweeting the fact that Black Panther shattered Justice League's entire domestic take, which then makes me wonder. It's like,
did he?
Oh yeah, he did. He did it on Twitter, but then when you go into his Instagram, he did the same thing. But then he put the little frog Abby with the tea cup. So it makes me wonder. It's like, okay, and we do know that he backed out due to creative differences. So now my question then becomes, what were the creative differences?
I want to make a good movie.
Yeah, and no, because I remember seeing when he was there, he was really excited about being the director, and I remember seeing some of the books he was reading to do this, and I was like, oh, he's all in. He really wants to do this. He seems really excited about the character, and it was as honestly he DC, it feels like Warner Brothers treated him the opposite way that Marvel treated Coogler. I feel like Rick was a big Flash fan and wanted to make this Flash movie, just like Coogler is a big Black Panther fan and wanted to make this movie. And where Marvel embraced him, Warner embraced Coogler. WB said did not embrace him and instead went with some crazy shit. Like, I guarantee you, he did not have any input in that fucking costume.
Oh no. Or maybe he did. And he had maybe he had bad ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he did, but I'm of the belief that probably not. Because I don't think the people that there have good ideas stick around there. And so I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know where the state of the DCEU is right now. And we know Aquaman's coming out, but I don't know what their plan is. I know their next movie after Aquaman, I think, is Shazam. But I don't know, like, outside of that, I don't know what they plan. Are they planning on doing these, which might work for them? I think we've talked about this. You know, do these unconnect your universe. Maybe still have the DCEU, but start doing those. I don't think it's a bad idea to start doing
anthology movies.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. Like, I think we talked about this before about doing a Batman anthology film.
Tales of the Dark Knight.
You know, that way you can get different actors playing Batman. You can have different directors telling different Yeah, you can do all these different things. Like, there are so many different things I think DC can do, and I think the way that Marvel and DC have set up their comic book universes means that you can't. I think there was also the story, I didn't read it, but there was Mark Millar saying something about how the real problem between DC and Marvel and their characters and why Marvel movies are better and things like that. And he went into some details. I saw some of the comments in the
He's not wrong, by the
way. And so I was talking to the Phenom about that yesterday. And I was like, yeah, he's not really wrong, but I think he's missing.
It's something you and I have always talked about, that for DC it's always power first.
Yes. And
for Marvel, because and this is all Dpalm's explicating, knowing about the background of the companies, they come from a place of horror comics. They come from a place of these the protagonists being these flawed people. The original Ant-Man was Man Trapped in the Anthill, and it's a horror comic.
Mm-hmm.
The Hulk's a horror comic. Fantastic Four is horror comics, and because these characters are so rooted and so have such feet of clay, it's easier for them to be relatable. At the same time, Jane Foster's Thor is compelling because both Jane Foster and Thor matter. You could tell a Batman movie without any real Bruce Wayne scenes. I've been reading Batman comics my whole life, and until the recent Marvelization of DC, shout out to Jeff Johns, you would see very little Bruce.
Exactly.
Clark didn't matter. Wally didn't matter. Well, actually, Wally was the first, in my opinion, Marvel character to hit the DCU when he took over for Barry, but that's a whole other speech by me. The bottom line is, he's not wrong, but he's wrong in thinking that that's all they can be, because I've seen compelling stories told that invoked both Bruce Wayne and Batman very recently. Do Court of Owls. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just do Court of Owls. Do the trippy thing where you turn the camera on its side, and like you did with that issue.
Yeah.
Do that for one 10, 15-minute scene.
There are compelling stories you can tell. So there's that, and there's also this idea of, I think DC has a problem of reconciling their history of their characters, because their history of their characters is a mess. There isn't a straight line. But then that goes into why doing anthology series, doing one-off, it works better for them than, say, the MCU. You can like, the MCU is a connected universe, and they have a straight line because their characters, for the most part, have a straight line from their inception to where they're at now. You can, like, we're gonna get in the last one of these crickets is gonna be talking about Marvel's reboot/refresh. Where I keep trying to tell people, it's like they've never really actually rebooted their universe. It's never actually happened. People keep saying it, but no, it's the same characters. And even though things have changed, there's always a character around here who remembers the old change. So it's like, that's not a reboot. That's just everything works in the same soup, right? DC's not the same. Like go back and listen to our Hawkman character corner. You see they've made a mess of their stuff. Wonder Woman has been a mess. You cannot draw a straight line from beginning to ending. They're trying to fix some things with Rebirth because they also had. Then you just had their literally reboot of New 52 where they literally wiped out their history, and they're trying to now fix that again.
Wow,
So
dude, I'm reading Nightwing and he's having flashbacks to things that in New 52 apparently didn't happen.
yeah, and
Like, at least it's part of the story in Marvel. Like, there's scenes where Miles is like, yeah, I remember things from before.
Yeah.
And, like, there are little asides like that. You're like, and you know Panther remembers too. And there are certain people who remember the universe before this one.
mm-hmm.
Here, it just feels like lazy, bad writing.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, so for DC and WB, it's harder for them to do a movie and say, hey, because I was talking to Dpalm, I was talking to Phenom about this, and I think I'm gonna start. He had a good point. He's like, we should start writing out some actual like ideas that what DC can do. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna write out some of the things that me and you have talked about. And I'm gonna start writing them out and write them and put them out there so that hey, maybe somebody will pick us up and hire us. But
well, there's two ways to do it because I think you're right. The anthology series works, or you could do what Marvel did, and you can tell one story.
mm-hmm.
But the problem with the DC characters is when you put the characters together, they seem to dilute one another.
Mm-hmm.
Like Batman next to Superman, both of them are lessened.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Marvel, everyone's augmented by the other parts because the DC characters are such icons on their own. However, if you start from a different place and you say, I'm going to take the best aspects of my character, I'm also going to create rules early on. If you limit the strength of Superman, if you limit the intelligence of Batman, if you build in caps for the characters,
mm-hmm.
give them limits, that's when it becomes more compelling. You can tell a ground-up story from there.
Yep.
You really can. I think you really can. If you want to tell the best, most iconic versions, which is what I think you and I would like to see, you're right. The anthology series is the only way to go.
Or what you do is, take what you said there is, and this is one of the, I think I've talked to you about this, my pitch for doing how they could have started with the Justice League movie at the gate. You show, in order to do this, you can't use the perspective of those characters. You bring in another character. Doesn't have to be human. It can be in the way the Justice League works, you can bring in a promote one of the Teen Titans up, and you guys can,
or just do the first 3 episodes of the Justice League the cartoon,
exactly,
and have Wonder Woman be the newbie,
exactly, and then that way you can then show the Trinity as being the gods and icons they are because you're having from the perspective of a new member, but then you can also then start showing the weaknesses in that. And then showing that one member saying that, hey, I'm just, like they have their flaws too. Like there's a way of doing this and telling that story. And I feel like DC, and this is honestly, with the success of Black Panther, this is actually what I'm afraid of happening next with marginalizing black characters, because everybody's going to see the success of Black Panther. So now that's obviously going to change the industry. But much like the success of Deadpool then made everybody go, well, let's make an R-rated film. And a lot of people, they didn't understand why Deadpool worked. I don't think a lot of people are going to understand why Black Panther works. Black Panther works because Marvel, one, has set up their universe over 10 years to allow for Black Panther to be here. They empowered their creative team from Coogler all the way to the writer, to everyone involved in that, to their actors and actresses, to make this movie, and made Black Panther what it is. And they embraced it. Other studios are not in that position to do that. They have not shown that kind of foresight to do that. And so what you're going to see is some really bad, like, people keep going, well, now we can do a Storm movie. And yes, hey, look, if we've talked about why a Storm movie probably isn't the best idea, but if you make Storm, let's say, when people say a Storm movie at this point, I'm assuming you mean a Storm-led X-Men movie. So I'm going to go with that. I'm fine with that, but here's the thing. Only if the deal goes through. Because if Fox does it, it's not going to work. Because they don't understand the character. And they don't have people there that understand the characters. And so that's the thing there. You need to get a full understanding of what you have, and then you can make. I do not believe that it is harder, fundamentally harder for Warner Brothers to make DC films. I do not believe that. You can do this because we grew up on these. I shit on the Christopher Reeves Superman films all the time now because I just like shitting on people with nostalgia who You don't look forward. But growing up, I watched the fuck out of those movies. I love those fucking movies. So I know it works. I know you can make these movies. You know? I watched Tim Burton's Batman. You know? I know you can do this. You know? I
watched Captain America. I know you can do Ernest in the 21st century.
Oh, man.
Ernest.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. Oh, those were the days. Oh man, you made me lose my train. I was gonna say something about
Sorry.
No, you just threw me off with that. We watch a lot of bad shit growing up. Oh man. But no, I know you can do it. I know there's a way for them to do this, and they just need to put the effort into it. They need to sit down, plan out. And here's the thing. I'm not giving them this, and I don't think they're doing this, but if they were smart, and they're not, so they're probably not doing this, the fact that they don't have anything coming out until Aquaman this fall, and they're currently working on Shazam, means that they have, and I don't think Shazam's coming out until like April next year. It's a while. They have time to plan things out and plan out where they're going to go forward. If they're smart, they're doing that now. We do know that they have made some kind of personnel changes here and there, so maybe that's what they're doing, but that's the only way this works. But we'll see. Like I don't hold out hope because, again, Marvel Studios. People forget this. The way Disney has structured their businesses, and people keep talking about how Disney buying all these places up, it's not good for business, and I understand that. I get that logic. But I've also understood how DC, how Disney has bought these other studios. They bought these other studios, but they allowed the studios to basically almost act independently from each other. So Lucasfilms has one job. They make Star Wars films. Marvel Studios has one job. They make Marvel films. That is why they kind of succeed. You have an entire outfit that all they do is one thing. And it's kind of like we were talking about before. We're like, why I don't want Superman's power, but why I want the Flash. Hey, if I can be the fastest man alive, give me that over the guy who has significant power in each little thing, but not the best at each one. Give me the one that can focus on one thing. And I think if Warner Brothers allowed DC Films to operate like Disney allows Marvel Studios to operate, I think you could see better films. But it also means Warner Brothers changing the way they have done business.
Which isn't going to happen.
We say it's not going to happen, but I at some point, I'm hoping that somebody at one of these studios realizes why Disney's going to make $8 to $9 billion fucking dollars this year. And goes, I
have no faith in anyone learning anything.
You're right. But I just at some point, somebody has to ask, why is it that the company that doesn't make as many movies as we make is fucking slaughtering us at the box office? Because when you think about how many movies Disney makes, they do not make as many movies that come out under Warner Brothers. But somehow, they are setting records every fucking year. And you would think that somebody at one of these other studios, between Sony, because Sony's really fucking floundering, that Sony, Fox, and Warner Brothers, somebody would ask, how is it they're able to do all that shit? But you're right, they haven't, and I don't think Black Panther's going to change that for some of these studios. They should, but they're going to continue to lag behind. So, last one for a quick history before we get out of here. I want to get your thoughts on this, man. The Marvel Fresh Start reboot. What are you looking at, man?
I'm rereading Thor right now. Aaron's run, and at one point, Loki is fighting Thor as they do, and Loki says to Thor, this is all temporary, right? You're just keeping the hammer warm for when the real Odinson returns. Why don't you just die now gracefully like a good little Thor and hurry this experiment along? It was never forever, guys.
Yeah.
It never was. And people who say, well, why wasn't? Because that's not how large corporate entities that are backed by hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising work. And that's what these are, by the way. But they're also stories. And the ability to tell the Jane Foster story is a great thing. The story of Sam Wilson wielding the shield is a great one. The story of the rise of Riri Williams is a great one. And they're going to have their own paths, hopefully not shepherded by bad writing, Falcon. going forward. But it was always going to be Steve. It was always going to be Tony. It was always going to be Thor. And Marvel is, like you said, they don't do reboots. They do return to status quo periodically so that you can have the touch base to tell the crazy stories. What's it mean to destroy the universe if it's a universe you'd never recognized? Of course, there are going to be touchstones. But then Secret Wars happens and everything gets and what leads to a countdown is something else big. Marvel's doing what they do. They're telling the next story. And they happen to do it in a way that they can coincide it and market with and match it with a marketing campaign. But get nothing twisted. People who listen, this is not a reboot. This is the next story.
Yeah, it's the next big thing, and it's the next story that if you saw some of the stuff in that, I think what was it, Marvel Legacy 1 that they did, you see what's coming. They're not getting rid of the characters they had. They're moving on to the next thing.
They're probably getting rid of Jane.
Well, I mean, we know Jane. I mean, Jane was. I mean, here's the thing. Like people,
it's been borrowed time, literally.
Like
literally.
So here's the thing about. So I don't want to count Jane in this. And while I like Jane Foster's Thor is great, guy, she was the first time they reveal her as Thor. They were like she has cancer and her being Thor is literally killing her. So it's like she was always on borrowed time. So the Jane Foster Thor thing, huh?
Did you read this week?
No, I haven't read it. I'm behind. I'm behind.
Oh,
so, but look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You knew. You started with the end in mind with that one. So that one doesn't bother me, and they told a hell of a Jane Foster Thor story here. So I don't care.
She fought the Phoenix.
Right. Like she fought the fucking Phoenix. Like again, go watch that video I did with some of my top 10 moments of Jason Aaron Thor run. 3 of them ended up having Jane Foster. And we could do a whole thing on Jane Foster herself. Like she's fucking awesome. All right.
We may have to do a CBC about her.
Yeah, because look, she's. But that was, like you said, it was always borrowed time. But they created a bunch of other smaller, younger characters. Like Kamala Khan is still around. Miles Morales is still around. Like I pointed out to people, it's like, when you see that Marvel Fresh Start thing, I think Kamala's there and Miles is definitely there as well. So it's like these characters aren't going away. You knew that Riri was always. I mean, hell, she wasn't even called Iron Man. She was called Ironheart. So again, don't be surprised if she's not going away. And then you saw in her legacy book where they kind of said that she has an important role in the future. So I think that people, and this gets to my second point, and I think this is something that Marvel has kind of the same problem that I think the DCEU has. I think they're really bad at publicity. I think they haven't understood that you are still trying to promote your books and promote your stuff the way you used to do. And in the age of social media and hot takes and people not reading the entire story, you're going to fail. Because
we say that, but at the same time, like the Dan Slott, there was so much outcry to that. Like I said, it's been the best-selling issues of the last 3 years. So
no, you're right. You're right.
Yes, we say that, but I think that the good wins out. The Aaron run, because the comic media, the people who got awards, they're awarding their work.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like the work's there. I'm just saying I don't think
in our battle, as far as the loudest voices, you're probably right.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, and maybe they're making the calculation that doesn't work. But when you put that in, when you put in Marvel Fresh Start right now, and you see all the first of all, you're getting outlets who don't normally talk about comic books talking about this stuff, and it's like I don't think the comic book side has realized that due to the success of the MCU. There's now more spotlight on them. And so everything they do now, like they have, I don't think that what Marvel's doing here is any different than anything that DC has done in its past. And DC has done a lot of horrible things in comic-wise in their past. Like people complain about too many events for Marvel, and I'm like, literally you're in the middle of running. I think, isn't Dark Metal still running? Like
Metal's happening right now.
It's running behind too. It's behind schedule.
No, they slipped in another book.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's
the Watchmen book is behind schedule.
Okay, I knew it was one of them books was behind schedule. So
yeah,
it's like
that one they moved it to bi-monthly, which means your 12-issue series is going to take 2 fucking years.
Yeah. So like, what the fuck? But guess who doesn't get who's not getting the bad press on that? DC's not getting bad press.
That's my mailbag question from that we never read a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, we'll bring that up.
That's my question.
Yeah, but it comes to this. It's like the MCU and Marvel puts the spotlight on them because now you have a bunch of people who don't read the comic coming in and now wanting to talk about it. And I think that the comic world isn't used to that. They're not. I mean, we grew up in this. We grew up reading this. We know this. They're not used to this kind of spotlight. They're not used to this. Every little move they like. We're now getting to now. You put in Marvel rebooting their comic books, and now it's like on the front page of all these fucking outlets. You're like, why are you guys even talking about this? Like, why is like, and we did this when we read these articles. We go, hey, that's not true. That's not right. They don't reboot. Like, this is not how it is. These stories have been told. Like, they're getting rid of Jane Foster Thor. It's like, well, if you read the Jane Foster Thor book, you knew this was happening. You knew this was coming.
It's been a ticking clock.
It's the end of her story. It's not like they're getting rid of her. I mean, they are getting rid of her, but it's like the end of her story. It's been it's a logical, complete end, you know? And so I think my thing is, I have no problem with what they're doing because I'm going to read the shit and I know it's going to be good because a lot of the stuff has been good. But I think that Marvel Comics needs to understand that you have the spotlight on you, so you're not going to be able to do what you've always done. And you need to find a better way of promoting yourself. Like I said, I hate the idea of them doing these preview panels. You know, I think the worst thing that they did for Secret Empire was that, well, not even Secret Empire, the Hydra Cap thing was, you know, having that Hail Hydra thing spoiled. You know, when that came out and people went fucking crazy, but it was people who weren't reading the books. And so you then get this entire conversation where now everybody's debating this, and half of the people haven't read a Captain America book in like 20 fucking years. And so, like, and I don't think that Marvel understands that, hey, listen, like, you might be winning the numbers overall, but you're losing the people. You're losing the publicity there. And maybe they're making the decision that it doesn't matter, but I think it does.
And the thing is, I think it's almost like they go low, we go high. Because the numbers are up. The numbers are where they are. Like, I see what you're saying. I kind of want them to fight back too, but part of me is like, I kind of like that Marvel's like, fuck you. We're telling our stories.
Yeah. Well, the other thing
because I'm, as a monthly reader of a lot of books, I guess I'm more inoculated from the noise.
Well, you know what it is too? I also want them to do, I want them to make sure that, because it's two things going on. When Marvel does this kind of stuff, like what this fresh start is being promoted as, at least through other people who aren't reading this stuff, they're promoting it as the conservatives are winning. That Marvel is going back to status quo. They're answering, they've decided that diversity doesn't win, and they're going to, and I'm like, well, if you read the book, like, that's not what, like, there's two different narratives. There's the one that people are saying Marvel is doing, and then when you read the books, you're going like, well, that's not what's happening at all. Like, they're clearly still, you know, the people that, the SJWs that those comic gates people don't like, they're all getting new books. They're all writing these books. So Dan Slott is going to be writing Iron Man.
Jason Aaron got Avengers, bitch.
Yeah,
woo!
You know?
I'm so excited.
Yeah, Jason Aaron on Avengers. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm in on this shit. So it's like, I feel like...
Clearly, like, I know what you're saying, but clearly Marvel's doubling down on what they're doing.
Oh, no, and absolutely. And that's why I said, I think that, for me, I think, I get what they're doing. It's like their books say one thing, and then they're trying to convince their rabid white male fan base, oh no, we hear you, and they're really not. Which I'm okay with.
I'm fine with that. You gotta sell the book.
And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But at some point, I do think that, like, at some point, it would be like just nice to be like, hey, make sure you guys also really talk to these other people. The marginalized people.
Books, though. I do think they're talking to the books by giving Aaron Avengers. Guess what? I don't care how racist you are. You're not going to not pick up Avengers.
No, you're right. You're right. But I'm just, yeah. So, like I said, we'll see. Like I said, I
think you and I want them to be louder about it, but they're trying to be smarter.
You know, and I get that, and I think that's the I think that's the balance. And what I'm saying, is, I want them to adjust the balance a little bit, because I think that they do need to answer some of the marginalized people's questions about what's going on, because they have had some hiccups. And
okay, that's, we can say hiccups, but we point at individual things, but as a company, as a comic book entity, they're doing more for marginalized people than anyone else, especially either than the people across the street. And their stories are progressive and moving forward. Like they gave they're giving Jason Aaron Avengers, like, and that's like Dan Slott's getting Iron Man. Like the people who are under fire, quote unquote, by these assholes are getting bigger and better profiles.
You're right.
They're clearly winning.
Yeah. So
hey, like I don't even see why you have to say it. Like once you've given Jason Aaron Avengers, otherwise lie. Like you know it's a lie. Like hey, look. Yeah, of course. We don't want that agenda-driven shit. I know that patriarchy hating shit in Thor. Yeah, you got Avengers now. What? Wait, what?
Right. We just upped it a little bit. So no, you're right.
Tell a story in Avengers,
and that Avengers team looks pretty dope. So yeah.
Yo, I'm sorry. I know we're all gonna miss Jane. Gold arm Thor. I'm here for it.
Yeah, look, man. Here's the thing, and the other thing too with Dan Slott on Iron Man. It also means Dan Slott probably writing a little bit of Riri as well. So,
oh, a lot of Riri.
I'm in. I'm sorry, guys. I'm there. So, yeah. So that's all I had. Like I said, I would like to fight back against the idea that Marvel's rebooting because they don't.
Exactly.
It's a straight line. It's
tell the next story.
It's just the next story. The next story arc. So we'll see. So all right. I think that's it. We did pretty good. We're a little over, but again, folks. Until next time, it'll be end of March. Send in your questions, your emails. Mailbag at mtrnetwork.net. We're coming back this week with a bunch of new Flash is back, Arrow's back, all them stuff are back. So we'll be back with those reviews, and then we'll also have a Character Corner on the Character Corner feed. So. Make sure you subscribe, and we will be back soon. So, folks, thank you guys very much. Until next time, we are out of here. Peace.